Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name is Joe, this is Vaulted Assets X. Today we're going to do a digital whiteboard video. I'm going to give you a warning right now. This will be a long video. I have a lot of information I want to cover. But if you want the TLDR version, too long didn't read, you need a system to be able to deploy your money properly. The most important thing is emotional intelligence and discipline. And without that, I just think you have a higher chance of failure. That's the summation of the entire video. So let's get into it. So before I go through this specific Excel spreadsheet and what I use to analyze collectible investing, let me give you a little bit of background on me. So I grew up poor. I grew up in a mobile home park. It was a nice enough place. It was called King's Manor, but I can assure you that there were not too many kings there, at least in financial status. It was barely a manor, but it was a, I didn't realize when I was younger that we were poor, because you're a kid and you're happy and you're just having fun and going about your life. So as I got older, and then you start to meet different people and you start to learn about lifestyles and people's culture and things like that, I started to get interested in reading about investing. And back then, pre-internet, it was all library. Couldn't go on Amazon and order books. You couldn't watch YouTube videos. So I would go to the library when my mom would drop me off and just try to find books on investing and the numbers behind it. And I would read a lot. And what was interesting is that I couldn't do any of the stuff in the books. I was young, I had no money, but just reading about it gave me a hope that one day I would be able to use some of these theories and models and the way people look at investing on my own. As I got older, internet hits, started learning a little bit more, reading a little bit more, and at least for me, I tried out different systems and different ways to look at money and growing it, preserving it, making sure you don't lose your ass, all these different type of things. And the biggest thing that I've learned, just to kind of make it as simple as possible, is that you need to find an investing style that aligns with how you're built emotionally, how it aligns with how you actually live in the world, and something that you could connect with and have faith it's going to work. And what I mean by that is if I try to look at somebody else's way of doing it and it looks interesting, but I don't believe in it, but I just want to make the money. So I see a collector there, say, buying Joe Montana cards for football. And he's showing me, hey, he's buying this, he's making all this money. The problem is I don't have his perspective, his knowledge, all the intricacies that matter when you're looking at this stuff. So when I try to copy what he's doing, I don't believe in it. I just want to make the money. Usually it doesn't work out. You don't wait long enough because you don't believe in it. You're not willing to wait through the hard times and everything falls apart. So to circle back what you see in front of you, this is a model I've developed over time, and it gets tweaked from time to time. But this is how I look at my collectibles investing. And at the end of the video, we'll actually go over specific items in these groups that I would look at from my point of view only, and give you some advice of how these collectibles fit into these buckets, why I feel that way, and what I would do. So let's get into it. So the concept that I use is called the 5 wheels. I named that myself. I made it up. I have no idea if anyone has it. If they do, good for them. Each wheel is based on a timeline or a time horizon. So if you look at the left side of the spreadsheet here, wheel number 1 is called the turn. The horizon 1 to 14 days. So what does that mean? It means that when you see something that you can obviously make money on, that you can buy it and sell it and flip it and take a profit in a short time window with a high degree of certainty. So I'm going to work left to right here. So in this model here, each of these 5 timelines, we're going to deploy $2,000 per timeline. Maybe your model is 1,000, maybe yours is only 500. And again, the way the spreadsheet is that you can do the inputs, whatever you want, and everything changes on the screen. So we're doing $2,000. Events is how many transactions you want to do with that money for that time period. So in this sheet here, 1 to 14 days, you're going to buy and sell the item within that time period. You have $2,000 to play with, and your goal is to do 10 transactions. So that's a buy and a sell, that's one transaction. Your hope is that of those 10 transactions, you win 80% of the time for a 15% return. So what does that mean? It means that out of those 10 buys and sells, 80% of the time you're going to make 15% profit. So an example there would be if I bought a Joe Montana card for $100. Let's just say the card comps at 150. I was able to buy for 100, and I want to flip it for 115. From 100 to 115, I made $15. $15 return on your $100 is 15%. So that would be the return. That would be a win scenario. In a loss scenario, because you're not going to be perfect every time, nobody is, out of those 10 transactions, you're going to lose 20% of the time. So out of those 10, on 2 of them, you're going to lose, and you're going to lose 15%. Hopefully that makes sense. I try to make this as simple as possible. If you need any more explanation, just put it down in the comments and I'll get to them. Expected return EV. This is a big concept to think about. Big with investing, also big with just decision making in life. I know a lot of people use this for medical decisions. They use it for even workout routines. It's basically the expected return based on a percentage of the likelihood that something will happen. So based on the math of this, 15% return and 80% win rate and a 15% loss at a 20% loss rate, your expected return on each transaction individually is 9%. And then the expected value at the end of the period, which is basically 9% compounding over 10 transactions overall, your $2,000 mathematically should turn into $4,735. Now, realistically, we know that this is more likely a goal, not a real number. Especially in a 14-day time period, you extract that over 26 weeks in a year, then over a time period. To operate in this 14-day window, the variance is going to be high. But these are just numbers and examples. I plugged in numbers that work for me and that I know I can, or I hopefully think I can attain based on past performance. So hopefully that line makes sense. So now we go down to the second wheel, which is, the reason why I call it a wheel is because if you look at it all as one big circle, the inner circle is the shortest time frame. Then you have a next circle, longest, and then you keep going out, like kind of rings of a tree, think of it. So the circle in the middle is going the quickest. The next circle is going a little slower. Then you go all the way to the circle on the outside. That one is going the slowest out of all, but they're all working together in tandem. It's an important concept to think about. So now we go to the second one, the catalyst. The horizon I use for this is 3 to 6 months, so a longer timeline. Again, we're using our $2,000, 5 buys and sells, 60% win rate. So we have a lower chance of winning overall. 3 to 6 months is a long time. A lot could happen. So the win rate goes down, but because of the time factor in it, and if you have a good way to understand why you are buying something in a 3 to 6 month window, which we'll get to in a minute, the return rates are typically higher. Loss rates, 40%. Loss return, negative 20%. Expected EV, 10%. So overall, higher than the short-term flip. Slightly percent or higher EV. Transaction per, the 10%. But expected ended value, 3,221. So there are competing ways of how to deal with collectibles, and everyone has a theory. So there's the argument on the one side from the short-term flippers that if you take a certain amount of money, you keep churning it over, that at the end of a year or 5 years, you will have more money than if you were to just buy it and sit on it. There is some truth to that. But what people tend to discount, and which is the most important part of the equation and most important part of any number in the spreadsheet, is your emotional well-being, how disciplined you are, and how honest you are with yourself. The emotional part of the investing and managing your brain is the most complicated, difficult part because most people haven't figured out the truth about themselves. And that can't be discounted, and that is why the model works this way. Is that certainly, yes, if you put in the time and the grind and the hustle and going to shows and eBaying and everything else, you certainly can. Let me move this a little bit. Sorry. Started to dim a little bit here. Let me move this out. I had my display on dim after a while. It's not perfect, but at least I can move the screen and keep it bright. So going back to what I'm saying, the expected value of putting in the time and working harder in the more transactions pays off mathematically. But we are not spreadsheets and we are not robots. And it's important to know how you're wired, but you don't know it until you try it. It's very easy to watch somebody on YouTube or read a book or see an influencer and think, oh, it looks so easy for them, I'm going to do it for me. The problem is you are not them. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I just mean that in being honest with yourself of how much work you're willing to put in. And you can see if you're on YouTube and Instagram and follow collectors, there are certain collectors, they hustle and they bust their ass. What you don't see is while they may make more money, maybe they have more expenses. Maybe because of all the stress of doing the dealings and dealing with people and doing all these transactions and having to constantly flip inventory and the stress of managing that, especially if they're using credit cards, maybe they develop an alcohol problem. Maybe they're a drug addict. Maybe they're obese and they eat too much. All these things matter. And it matters to know who you are and what and how you're built. And until you go through some shit and until you try different things and figure it out, everything is just a theory. None of it is reality. And I like at this point in my life to try to deal in the reality of the situation. So going just through each of these, that was the second one. Again, less work, less money, but in a 3 to 6 month period, you're doing 5 events. In a 14-day period, you're doing 10 events. So the workload matters, the time period matters, and the amount of money expected matters. So going to the third bucket, 1 to 2 years, 2 transactions, 50-50 win rate. If you win, 60%. If you lose, you're down 25%. Expected EV is 17.5. And your expected end value, $2,761. Now, if I were to go through the first 2 and maybe make this 10 events, see how the money jumps up. So if you do the same amount of events in a shorter time and then you expand it, your money goes up. And same here, the money goes up. But we're trying to show that if you're doing it over a longer time, you probably want to do less events because you're more disciplined. You see things better. You filter things out better. You're trying to understand and build your mental model how to do things. And there's a reason and an explanation for all this. So now we go to the fourth bucket, the compounder. These are collectibles you want to buy and hold for at least 5 years. Think of sealed boxes. Think of goats. Think of maybe individuals that are going to get inducted into a Hall of Fame or something is going to happen, but 5-year timeline. Or it could be sealed like Pokemon, or it could be Lego sets, whatever. You have $2,000, you buy one thing, you wait 5 years, there's a 40% chance you're going to double your money and a 60% chance you're going to lose 30%. Your expected EV is 22%, and your expected return on your $2,000 with the EV is $2,440. And you may think, wait a minute, I waited 5 years to invest $2,000, you're going to make $2,440. It doesn't seem like a lot of money, and it certainly looks like you could have made more money, but you have to remember, these are buckets of risk. The turn is the riskiest, but you put in the most work, most reward, and that's why your EV is higher. The compounder, you have to think of like, basically like your 457, your 401k, your Roth. Slow and steady. That's how you have to think about the compounder bucket, which is the fourth part of the wheel. I said bucket, but I meant wheel. So now we go to the most important part of the entire video so far, and the whole concept of investing. This is the forest. This is a 10 to 20 year timeline, which I know sounds insane, but this can be done, and I have done it, and other collectors have done it. That's how I learned it, and other investors have done it. This is one thing you buy to hold 10 to 20 years, and this is where the model really shines. You have an 80% chance to 10 times your money, or a 10% chance to lose 25% of your money. There's an EV of 795%, and your expected ending value is $17,900. So if you look at the chart here visually and look at the numbers, these four buckets add up to $13,157. This last one is $17,900. So why does this matter? It shows that by doing the least amount of work and having the most amount of patience, which is exactly how we're wired not to do. We are wired to keep taking action and get dopamine hits. And we're also wired, if something goes up a little bit, we want to sell it. If something goes down a little bit, we want to sell it. We're emotional disasters for the most part when it comes to investing. This is why the fifth wheel, the forest, is the hardest one to do. You will feel the most pain, but is the most rewarding. So your $2,000 investment can become worth $17,900 in theory. But I've seen things like this go even higher. I've seen $2,000 investments become $100,000 investments. So this winner return percentage here, instead of it being 1,000%, it could be 10,000%. And your EV is $161,000. And the reason why I know this is because I've had collectibles that have done this myself. For the most part, I'm trying to show you what I have done. Now, yes, we are in a collectibles bull market. I've been doing this for a long time, and there's no guarantee that what happens from today moving forward will replicate. But I think we're all pretty aware that collectibles have never been more important in our culture, not just in the United States, but in the world. There's more money flowing into it. You layer on the collectability factor, the technology that makes it accessible. We can get it on our phone. We don't need physical collectibles anymore. It could be digital. Then you add in the gambling aspect of sports and how it's all tied in: sports, gambling, collectibles, investing. And when it's all said and done, it is the most intense, complicated, high-risk video game ever created. That is my opinion. This is all wired and coming together with all these systems as the video game of video games. And that is why it is fun. That is why it is addictive. That is why people love to do it. So now let me change this original number back to what it was, the 1,000%. So you have your starting portfolio of 10 grand, $2,000 per bucket. The expected value of the portfolio then should be $31,057. Expected profit, portfolio return. And then in the lower left, I just have a summary here of what drives each of these buckets. The turn is usually the value you see, like using card ladder right away. Wait a minute. There's a gap here that I could take advantage of immediately at a show or on eBay or flipping it on Whatnot or putting it on my Instagram story. That's a value dollar play. The catalyst, the second wheel, is the buzz. Or there's something going on 3 to 6 months. Maybe it's the start of a football season. Maybe a UFC fight's coming up and somebody's going to fight in 2 to 3 months and you want to buy the cards of those fighters. That's an example of that. The arc is a momentum play. So this is based on, I like to do this one based on like individual careers, milestones. An example would be, say that next year Josh Allen's on track to break a scoring record or a passing record for yardage. Those are the type of plays for that, in my opinion. We go to the compounder, which is the fourth row. This one is patience. This is where you have a thesis or a play, usually involving GOATs or all-time greats. So think of your Jordans, your Kobe's, your LeBrons, your Babe Ruths. Go to UFC, think of your John Jones, your Khabibs, whatever. You have some belief that a card is undervalued based on the GOAT themselves. You try to look for stuff that's overvalued and undervalued and stick in the undervalued. Buy something, wait 5 years and see what happens. The forest is buying something that right now is the best of the best in its class. You're not looking for value here. You're looking for upside. So for the stuff in this bucket, you're probably going to have to pay up and you're probably going to have to pay full market or above. But the hope is that in 10 or 20 years, with more money coming to the economy, with people having more money than ever in the history of time, just look at the stock market, look at the AI boom, read some articles, do some research. I'm not going to go into it in major details here. But if you think there's less money coming into the system than more, you are probably need to read a little bit. Now, I know that the news headlines capture that like 60% or 40% of the population is struggling with inflation and food stamps and struggling to survive day to day. And that is very true. A lot of the world is struggling and it is sad and it's unfortunate. And I think a lot of things have to be done. I'm not going to get into politics of government. It's beyond this channel and beyond my scope of knowledge. My hope is that artificial intelligence will help solve a lot of that problems in a positive way. And there are downsides of artificial intelligence. I tend to focus on more of the positive of it. But I think individuals that, if they're willing to learn AI and leverage it in their job and their skills and their life for everything, I think that they will live a better life and they have a potential to earn more money if they want to. And that's a large part of it too, is the mental makeup of individuals. Do they feel like that they have an opportunity to earn money or not? Do they see these opportunities and do they believe them? But the point is, there's more money coming into the world and collectibles than ever, and that's what this model is built around. One book if you made it this far in the video, I'm going to give you a hack. And I appreciate you watching it. I know it's typically these type of videos, like I don't know if this video is going to get 1 view or 100. I have no clue. I enjoy talking about this stuff. I enjoy providing perspective to individuals. But you have to absorb more about this stuff if you're going to take it seriously. And read some books. And that's the other thing is too, is that the weird part of this is that there's the fun aspect of it. There are plenty of collectors in the world that may do something like this, but they're not serious and they're just doing it for fun and to have like a group of people they do it with and they post it on social media and whatever, and they're just losing money. But to them, they don't care because they're just having fun and enjoying it. It'd be like if you went to the casino and just gambled, or you went to a concert and you dropped $500 on tickets and you saw something and you got something out of it, but you still lost the money. And I think a lot of people in the collectible space are in that as well. They're not worried about like growing their collection or the value of it. They're just having fun, doing their thing, and they don't really give a shit if they make money. And that's fine too. We all go through those stages. But being a little older and a little wiser and understanding that there are opportunities here, this is how I prefer to look at it. So going back to the book I mentioned, let me bring up the exact name of the book. I always butcher the title because I always forget it. I know the author's name is Mark Spitznagel, but I always get the order of the title. I always mix up the words. What is it? Here it is. Mark Spitznagel. The name of the book is called The Tao of Capital, Austrian Investing in a Distorted World. Right now, the book is $13 on Amazon. I will link it down below in my video. Why do I recommend this book? Some of what I have in this spreadsheet is based on what I read in that book, especially the part about the forest. So Mark Spitznagel proposes a theory of investing called the roundabout. And basically what the roundabout is people that invest, they think in too short term, making all these movements in the moment. But the real money, which you can see represented by the forest, is made on the tail end. The goal is to figure out a way for you to avoid making all this moves and nonsense here so you can survive and not go bankrupt and have time to get out here where the big gains are made. The problem is that unless you have faith in time and in yourself, you'll never make it there because you'll sell too soon, or you're going to credit card debt and you have to dump your collection to pay it, or you're going to have a kid or buy a house and you're going to have to overreach financially and you have to dump all your collectibles. Mark Spitznagel presents this theory based on, funny enough, the life cycle of a tree, and that by waiting and building money in the short term and just saving, and then making and investing in one or two things, and then holding, that time and patience will win. The theory is called the roundabout. And I highly recommend reading the book. There's a lot of cool anecdotes in it. He equates it to some of the warring periods in Japan. He equates it to human biology. He equates it to tree patterns. It's a pretty intense book. I know it took me a while to get through it, and it's a book that you should read and absorb in little bits. It's a lot to soak in because a lot of the concepts you would read about, I guarantee you've never even considered before. And you've never been exposed to them. And when you're exposed to something for the first time, there's like this shock of it. But then you need time for it to kind of marinate and for your brain to think about it and implement it. But I'll put the link of the book down in the chat. So this is my spreadsheet. This is something I look at every once in a while. I think about it, and I kind of reassess where my collection is, what I'm trying to do. Now, somebody that also does shows, card show inventory is probably the first two wheels, the turn and the catalyst. So like right now, past month, I've been buying things to specifically put in the showcase to sell at the show. But also in the back of my mind, knowing that I'm still buying the collectible, and if I don't sell it, I like it, I can hold it and maybe turn it into the third wheel, the arc, or the compounder. I always think about that in the back of my mind. Am I buying something that I have to get rid of, which I made that mistake before with certain things? Something that spikes, you try to take advantage of it. You think you're smart, you think you're slick, you think you know more than anyone's, and it just flames out. So I try to avoid those situations as much as I can. And you see that all the time. You see it with draft picks. You see with certain football players are big. Even like the Jalen Brunson market when he won the title. Like that first 2-week period after he won the title, like everything spiked up so much and everyone thought that it would last longer than it did. And it kind of came down slowly, and now it's kind of in a middling place. So that's another example. But yeah, so this is basically how I look at it. So what I want to do now, hopefully I can pull this off. I want to move this to the left side of the screen and keep it up. And I want to go on eBay. And I have eBay window open, and I also have Heritage Auctions open. And I want to go each of these wheels and give you an example of something that, for me, I would buy and walk you through. So the turn, 1 to 14 days. So that's something that I'm trying to sell within a 2-week period. So what is a possibility there? So something that I would buy and put out at a show possibly, and I was looking at this a little bit earlier. So Spencer Jones is a baseball prospect, turned major leaguer very recently with the New York Yankees. He's 6'7", has insane power. His baseball advanced analytics are wild, but he swings a lot and misses a lot. But he's exciting to watch, has a lot of hope, and part of the young Yankees core. He has a very expensive cards, and people are buying them. And I noticed in my local shows in Florida, there aren't too many Spencer Jones cards, but a lot of people look for them and ask for Yankees. So if you look at Spencer Jones and you look at like his 2013 Bowman Chrome, for example, And then you want to look at an auction. Then you want to look at ending soonest. So we see a couple of these cards. So like this card ends at 17 minutes, Bowman Chrome Sapphire Jones PSA 10. So maybe you pull up Card Ladder. Keeps logging me out. I'm not sure why that is. So maybe we go something like this. 2013 Bowman Chrome Sapphire Prospects Spencer Jones. If I can get the mouse to work. And again, this is just an example. This is not something I may or may not actually do. So we see in the past couple of weeks, Chrome Prospects, that's the card, attended 128 via fixed pricing. An auction, which is the worst way to sell cards like this, in my opinion, is $70. So within a 5-day period, the same card had a $58 swing because a person that was smart at a fixed price and a moron auctioned it. So we look at the card, it's at $82. In my opinion, if you're able to get this card for 85 or 90 bucks, and you believe in your salesmanship skills and you think that you can get it, like you can use this higher comp to maybe sell it for 110 or 115 and ignore the auction comp and try to explain to the person how it works. I'm not saying that's going to work, but that's how I would look at it. You have to have some faith in yourself that when the person's standing in front of you and you're going to sell a card, that you can give them compelling data and information of why they should get it. And also, I think last night he just cranked a homer as well. So that's the type of card that falls into the first wheel, 1 to 14 days, get it for 85 or 90, put it out at a showcase for 115 or 120, price it at 130, and you can make some money there. That's example number 1. Example number 2, which we will go to, wheel number 2, the catalyst 3 to 6 months. So let's look up on my phone real quick. When does the NBA season start? NBA season NBA season starts October 20th. Today is August, September, October, so call it 2 months. So this is 3 to 6 months. Again, these horizons are flexible. I think the NBA season is enough to fall into this because you would still sell it when the season starts. So what are some interesting options? What are some things that happen this offseason that can be compelling? Giannis going to the Heat. Pretty interesting. Klay Thompson yesterday going to the Heat. Pretty interesting. So maybe there's a Klay Thompson thing that you buy the card and you hold on to it. So let's look at Klay Thompson. Let's focus on PSA stuff just because it's easier. 35 Klay Thompson cards ending. So we have this ending in 7 hours. The 2016 Panini Select Klay Thompson. Let's see what this goes for. This is the Orange Prism out of 60. There may not be any of these. Let's see. Let me make this search less restrictive. There we go. A Rod to 21. What is this at? PSA 10's at 51. Rod to 10. So this card, in my opinion, is higher than, what the hell? Sorry about that. Got a bug flying around. 51 is higher than I would feel comfortable on that card. But my point is, this is the type of player, the type of cards, like maybe something like this, like a higher end one. My gosh, that patch is insane. Something like this, maybe. 2012 Panini Immaculate. I'm going to add this to my watch list just to do a little research on it later. Something like this. This sold January in the 10. Is this the exact same card? 857. No, different card. Patch is different. So this did 1,277 bucks. Card live values at about the same. 10. So this might be opportunity. Maybe you scoop this up for 800 bucks or 1,000 bucks and you hold on to it for 3 months. And then if Klay Thompson gets off to a good start with the Heat, they start cranking, they're making headlines, they're on nationally televised games, teams clicking, opportunity. Next, we go to the third wheel, the arc, 1 to 2 years. 1 to 2 years is a little more interesting. I would look for, excuse me. This is where you can kind of speculate on young rookies in certain sports, or you can go on GOATs. There's no kind of direct way to do this. And again, you have to figure out something that works for you. Something that's 1 to 2 years, I'd probably try to focus on like some undervalued, like Kobe cards, LeBron. And there's enough of them out there. And I would focus on stuff that's low pop and hoping that grading still keeps cranking. More people focus on low pop cards and you can use that as a sales point. The compounder, we go to 5 years. Again, these are more like your more evolved type of players. I know some people would argue that, well, Joseph, now's the time to buy young rookies, and you just hold it on for 5 years. And the one thing to think about is if you're buying a young rookie, when they're playing and when they're in the news and they're in your face, it is harder to hold on to that because you're going to see it in your face all the time. And you may get shaken out of the investment and you may feel like you have to sell. At least with GOATs like LeBron, Kobe, Jordan, Babe Ruth, like their legacy is set. John Jones, Khabib, their legacy is pretty much set. So you're not worried about how they're performing day to day, week to week, which can cloud your judgment. And I think that's a big risk, in my opinion. So for the compounder, if you want to do 5 years, for me, for 5 years, I would focus on a GOAT like Khabib. So let's do Khabib. If I could type it in properly. So we do auctions. We're going to focus on highest because I'd rather look at more expensive stuff. What are some expensive Khabib auctions? 2016 Islam Khabib, purple, not special enough. You want something special is your fourth wheel. Like this one is potential here. It is at a 49, which is higher than I like. It is authentic. It is an auto 8, which sucks because all his autos are terrible. A card like this would be a possibility, but not this card in particular. There's 3 things I don't like. The authentic grade, the auto 8, and the high number. I like the card. I like the horizontal. I like the action. I like the choking. I like the immaculate, but there's too many things that are downsides. So let's look for something else. This is a Color Blast. Again, great card, great insert, horizontal. Mint 9, I'm okay with. The authentic auto is shit because he signed it in person, and that's the horrible auto. I will not spend any money on this card. Trying to sell this down the road, people are going to want better looking cards with the autograph, in my opinion. Another modern. See, I would do something like this. 2014, the car's 12 years old. It has a relic in it. It is a high number, 175. But that Khabib auto looks better than almost any current Khabib auto on the market. Yeah, it's a great looking card, and you can get it relatively cheap. So this would be more of like the compounder to hold for 5 years, in my opinion. Then we go to the 5th wheel, the one that drives the entire engine, the Forest. So for the Forest, we're going to go to Heritage Auctions, higher end stuff, but this is stuff ending tonight on Heritage. And as you can see, these are really, really expensive items. Like this one item is a bid of $3 million, reserve at 2.5. And I'm not saying to go out and buy this stuff, and I wouldn't even go out and buy most of this stuff. It's frankly out of my risk tolerance. I don't have capital to buy some of this stuff. Some of the stuff I just don't believe in as well. I'm not saying I have a good read of where I think a lot of this stuff will go, but I try to think of like risk versus reward moving forward. So let's go through some of this stuff and something I'm interested in. Like all this stuff is super cool and super amazing. And like some of these are the best collectibles you will see. Heritage has some. So how it works at Heritage, they have usually on these big auctions is Platinum Nights auction. They have Friday night auctions, Saturday and Sunday. The best of the best end Friday. The second tier, which is what you're seeing now, is which is Saturday, is today, and then the rest of the auctions end on Sunday. So about 100 items end on Friday, 100 items end on Saturday, then the other 1,200 end on Sunday. See like a Mickey Mantle PSA 7. Amazing card. For me, if I was going to buy Mantle and drop this much money, I would need better centering. Still a great example, though. You have a PSA 10 Jordan rookie, 366,000. That'll probably end up going for 400,000. These are the type of cards and the type of assets to look at for the Forest. So just scanning this stuff and looking it over, which I'll do real quick. There's a Mantle and a 3.5. So look at the center on that one. That is insane eye appeal. Why would that only get a 3.5? What am I missing here? Top edge, staining, corner, but man, that's a nasty looking Mantle right there. Holy cow. Crease on the back, crease. Man. So something like that would be a possibility of something that I would put my money in to hold that long. This is kind of sick. A Larry Bird photo match jersey from 1982-83. Game worn jerseys are, again, fifth wheel assets, we'll call them. Like the best of the best. You just put it away and forget about it forever. Let's see. Interesting. And the photo match certification. Something like this, again, Larry Bird game worn jersey. The type of thing you would want to do. Let's see what else is here is interesting. Mantle, we have Mickey Mantle autograph, Bill Russell rookies, like a pristine signed Babe Ruth baseball, Tiger Woods stuff. And again, like some of this stuff I would never touch. Like I would never touch most of this modern stuff. Like I wouldn't touch this Luka. You see those all the time. The logo mans, I understand how they're popular, but they're just not for me. I think as time goes by, Fanatics makes better types of inserts and patches and things. I think they'll make stuff better than this, and people will forget about this as much over time. I could be totally wrong on that. That's my opinion. You have a Walter Payton signed rookie. You don't see those too often. But again, like if you want to, go to heritageauctions.com, pull up session 2, and scroll through this stuff. And see what you connect with that you can see in 20 years people are still going to care about. Alex Rodriguez, like, I would consider him a toxic asset for years, but now his stuff is starting to take an upswing. And like this jersey here, 2009 World Series Game 6 signed Yankees uniform. That's so cool. With the pants, so it's the full uniform. World Series, what did he do? Is this the clincher? Let me see. Yeah, it was the clincher. So he was on the field and wore this when they clinched their 27th World Championship. Man, that's cool. It's like something like this. I think the worst part of A-Rod's legacy, like the downside is already reached its max and we're up. Buying something like this and hold it for 10 or 20 years, I would be behind that. Somebody came to me with that idea, I can see that. Jackie Robinson, signed card. That's really cool, something like that. I would need to do more research on his autographs and the type of people that collect this stuff, but that's what I mean. Stuff like this. Michael Jordan game used bat. Game used bats are impossible to authenticate for the most part because of the photo match is you can't do really. The bat's too thin, images aren't good enough, so I would stay away from those, but it's a cool item. 52 tops, I'm tracking this one, a 52 tops pack. This is just pure history because you could pull the 52 Mantle out of here, possibly. I think so, right? Yeah, I'm pretty sure you can pull the 52 Mantle out of here. I might be wrong on that, but I think you can. Don't hold me to it. Roddy Piper match worn outfit. Like, how cool is that? Rustling collectibles are going through the roof. That's a cool thing. Oh, he has it on the magazine cover there and there. There's pictures of him wearing it. Yeah, something like that is cool. More risky, obviously, but still cool. Steph Curry, you have some jerseys, some Otanis. Yeah, so like in this one too, I think this is a sleeper. So I'm going to try to bid on this. Let me get to it. I think a game worn helmet from Peyton Manning is insane. I think the game worn helmet is more impressive than a game worn jersey. It's my opinion. And this helmet was matched to his MVP season. Does it say how many games? Let me see. Yeah, it says it here. How many games? 1, 2, 3, at least 4 games. And with this stuff, it's weird because like they're saying at least 4 games they can confirm, but there may be other games that would match to, but they just don't have good enough imagery and photography to do it. But you'd have to do research to see how many helmets they used or try to do that. Let me see. Oh, I paint Manning. Yeah, pretty cool stuff. 35,000. This would be sick to add to in a collection. Again, you just buy it and put it away. Forget about it. Pele rookie. That's pretty sick. I won't buy anything Kevin Durant. I know people disagree with me on that, but I'm not buying one Kevin Durant item. Anyway, stuff like that. That's the fifth wheel. Pretty much wraps up the channel. Let me bring up the spreadsheet one last time. Again, all these numbers you can change or mix up for what you like. I do it just to mess around and math stuff out. But yeah, like, comment, subscribe. Thank you for taking time to watch the video. The takeaway from all this, you can certainly do this with no system and no plan and make a lot of money. And you can lose a lot of money. But the thing is, if you're planning to do this for a long time and make this part of your life, I feel better knowing you have a system and a plan and some goals to reach. Yeah, you can go to the gym and just do whatever machines you feel like that day, and you're gonna see gains and you're gonna make progress. But when it's all said and done, we only have so much time on this earth, and I think the efficiency of it matters. So if you go to the gym randomly and you do it for 2 years, and maybe you have 5 pounds of muscle gained because you're just jerking around and not tracking anything. But what if somebody came to you and said, "Hey, here's a plan. I will change your plan as you get better at lifting. And over 2 years, instead of getting 5 pounds of muscle, excuse me, we'll give you 15 pounds of muscle because you have a program and a plan and something to hold yourself accountable." It's the same simple concept of everything we use in our lives to collectibles. Having a system, having a program, having a plan, doing some check-ins, monitoring your results, doing improvements. I think that's a better way just to approach life in general. But sometimes you have to fail and lose your ass and go through the hard times and the tears and why things aren't working out. Sometimes you hit that emotional bottom before you realize that you were the problem, but you're also the solution. The goal with this video is to close that gap. That if you're losing your ass in collectibles and you're actually trying to make some money and you're trying to invest and build some wealth and add value and enjoy this, how many years are you going to wait before coming up with some type of system that works for you? You're going to wait till you're bankrupt? Are you going to wait till you enjoy it, that you are so disenchanted with the hobby that you stop doing something you enjoy and just quit? I know it doesn't sound so fun to me. That's all I got. Have a great day. Take care of yourself. Drink your water. Do your cardio. I will talk to you again soon.